Meeting my professor and my friends. Today we are going to present about our group project of our presentation 2, which is the factor of sustainable food consumption. This is our group member, which is Wang Xingyi, Tai Yixian, and Sun Xiang and Chu Guoyi. We will start with the abstract of this research. The purpose of this study to explore how religious commitment, Nazism, materialism, and psychopathy influence the environmental identity performance. Moral discouragement and the status consumption and subsequently affect the individual attitude and the behavior towards sustainable food consumption. Throughout this result of the research, we have used the 174 questionnaire to examine the relationship between the various variables. For the next part, we will talk about the methodology, which is start with the data collection instrument. Data collection instrument are tools that selected and used in this study to make it more systematic. And we will use the primary data, which is the questionnaire survey. And this questionnaire is used the closest ended question. This questionnaire also have the divided into 4, but in the Google form has contain 10 sections. For the part A, from section 1 to section 3, cover the sustainable food attitude and the behavior. For the part B, from section 4, 7, 8, and 9, cover the psychology traits, also known as the dark personality traits. For the part C, from section 5 to 6, cover the social and moral influence, which is the status consumption and the moral discouragement. For the last section, cover the demographic character of the respondent. And the respondent answer in section 1 until 9 based on the Likert scale, like the table will present here.
Next part is samples and the sampling method. The first research population and the samples. The target population of this study was individuals, and they are key group with developing values, active consumption habits, and growing awareness of environmental and social issues. A total of 174 valid responses were collected through a structured questionnaire measuring psychological traits like religious commitment, narcissism, machiavellianism, and psychopathy, and the behavioral outcomes such as environmental identity, moral disengagement, and state consumption. Respondents came from different backgrounds, which helped enhance the variety and relevance the findings. The second part is the sample selection procedure and the sampling framework. In this study, a non-probability sampling technique significantly convenient sampling was used due to time and logistical constraints. Respondents were selected based on their, making the process efficient and flexible. Data was collected using an online questionnaire distributed via Google Form, which allowed for easy access and quicker response collection. The survey link was shared widely through digital platforms such as university group chats, WhatsApp groups, and student social media communities, helping to reach a large number of potential participants efficiently. To encourage honest response, the purpose of the study was clearly expanded at the beginning of the questionnaire, and the participant anonymity was assured. The use of an online format ensured both convenience for respondents and accuracy in data handling, making it an effective approach for this research. The next part, data analysis technique. In this study, data collected via Google Forms were analyzed using SPSS to ensure accuracy and consistency. Descriptive statistics summarized the response and the demographics and the key variable distribution. Reliability was tested using Cronbunch alpha with all values above 0.8, indicating high internal consistency. For example, regency commitment scored 0.954 and narcissism 0.925. Validity was confirmed through a high KMO value of 0.918 and a significant balance test showing the data was suitable for factor analysis. 3 multiple linear regression models were used to examine how psychological traits, religious commitment, narcissism, machiavellianism, and psychopathy predicted environmental identity performance, moral disengagement, and state consumption. All models were statistically significant, confirming the explanatory power of these variables. Overall, these techniques provide a solid framework to explore how personality traits influence behavior in moral, environmental, and consumer contexts. Okay, next.
Alright, so for data findings, so actually this study is collected respondent 174 individuals and 89 respondent is female and 85 were female, male, sorry. So the majority age is 18 to 25 years old. They also diploma or degree. Alright, so for correlation analysis, we use to measure the relationship between the independent variables, religious commitment, narcissism, materialism, psychopathy, and environment identity performance, EIP. Okay, so religious commitment is show positive to EIP, and narcissism also show positive to EIP. So materialism show the weaker positive to EIP, and psychopathy very weak correlation with the EIP. So this result shows students who are more religious or narcissism are more likely to engage in environment identity performance. So the effect of materialism are small, and psychopathy does not have a meaningful relationship with EIP. So second, correlation test was used to see the relationship between the IV and the moral disengagement. So religious commitment show positive to MD, and narcissism also show strong positive. Materialism also show positive to MD. Psychopathy also show the positive relationship. So this means that the religious commitment and dark personality traits, they are increased, and the moral engagement also increased. So people with these traits are more likely to justify their unethical action. So third, correlation test was used to see the relationship between the IV and the stated consumption. So religious commitment show positive with the SC, and narcissism also show strong positive. Vegetarianism show positive also, and psychopathy show a positive relationship with the SC. Right, so this Combra Alpha test. So there are two items the data has been deleted, which is sustainable food consumption and behavior, and the morality and engagement. So the others, didn't delete what. Okay. So next is hypothesis testing. So we have 3 questions. So first question is, what is the effect of religious commitment, narcissism, materialism, and psychopathy on environment identity performance? Religious commitment and narcissism has shown significant positive effect on EIP. But the materialism and psychopathy, they are not significant. So students hold the higher levels of religious commitment and narcissism tend to perform better on environment identity performance. So they may care about how others see them or feel guided by religious value. So students who hold the higher of materialism and psychopathy, and do not have much effect on EIP. So question number 2 is, what is the effect of religious commitment, narcissism, materialism, psychopathy on moral engagement? So the 4 variables that show significant positive effect on moral engagement. So when the student they are higher in the religious commitment or the dark traits, they are also the engagement. So this means they will find way to justify bad behavior and not feel godly. So third is, what is the effect of religious commitment, narcissism, materialism, and psychopathy on stated consumption? So religious commitment and narcissism have a significant positive effect, but the materialism and psychopathy, they are not significant. Students who are more religious or narcissism are more likely to spend money and on things to show off. Right, so they may do this to impress others. So materialism and psychopathy did not strongly affect the stated consumption in this group. So this is a correlation test. Materialism and psychopathy, they are show significant positive relation with the stated consumption. But this means that the students who score the higher on this tag traits, they are more likely to buy items to show off. But in regression, when predictors are overlapping or related, it does not mean the traits are unimportant, but their influence may overlap with other traits in the same model. All right, next.
For discussion, explores how personal values and dark trade traits related to sustainability and moral behavior. We found that regions' commitment significantly predict environment identity performance, with a beta value of 0.448 and explaining 42.8% of the viral nation. This means that individuals with stronger religious beliefs are more likely to engage in sustainable actions, especially in collectivist countries like Malaysia, where moral norms hold great narcissisms of 0.475 and 0.272 respectively. This individual may justify unethical action due to low empathy or inflated self-image. Interestingly, while machiavellianism and psychopathy were correlated with status consumption, they didn't remain significant in the full regression model, possibly due to overlapping effect. Only religion commitment and narcissism significantly predict status-driven behavior.
Overall, this finding confirms our research model and suggests practical strategy. For example, environmental programs can influence religion values or social prestige to motivate different personality types, and for those prone to moral disengagement, and faith building may be key. And for next part, for conclusion of findings, this study examined how religion, commitment, and doctrinal traits influence moral disengagement, environmental identity, and status consumption. Based on 174 valid response analyzing SPSS, we found that religious beliefs promote pro-environmental behaviors, while narcissism, materialism, and psychopathy are linked to unethical, status-driven behaviors. These findings are alleged with previous research showing that faith-based values encourage responsibility, while exploitative personality pursue self-interest. However, the study has limitations. First, the simple lack gender balance and demographic data, limiting geographic and second, since this was a self-report, cross-section studies, and we can prove causality, and there's a risk of social disability bias. And last one is we didn't account for cultural or psychological facts that may influence these relationships. In future research, we recommend using longitudinal or experimental designs, more diverse samples, and combining surveys with behaviors or interview methods for deeper insights.
Of this research, which is this research examines the factor of religious commitment and the dark personality traits, such as narcissism, materialism, and the psychopathy on the environment, identity, performance, moral disengagement, and the status consumption. This research questionnaire surveys and the multiple regression analysis. As a whole, religious commitment and the narcissism are both positively influencing factor when it is come to the environmental identity performance. And the second, drawing on the moral disengagement, religious narcissism and materialism and psychopathy, each is the strong positive correlate, which means that every devout people can, under some circumstance, avoid behavioral response through cognitive rationalist system. In terms of status consumption, the result indicate that narcissism are mostly likely to engage in luxury symbolic consumption. Materialism and the psychopathy do not significantly contribute to the regression model. Overall, this study not only filled the research gap between the personality, psychology, and the sustainable food consumption, but also rationalized more psychologically oriented environment and the ethical education policy with the hope to foster greener consumption behavior that is more holistic and sustainable.
So thank you everyone, and thank you Doctor.